Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into, well, the biggest story there is. It's our story. From the very first spark of human consciousness in Africa, all the way to our potential destiny out there among the stars.
So here's how we're going to break down this incredible journey. We'll kick things off right at the beginning. Then we'll meet some of our long-lost relatives. And yeah, we had them. We'll see how we kind of took over the planet. And then we'll look way, way into the future. All right, first step, our story doesn't start with some big, flashy bang, It's more of a slow burn, this long, grinding process of geology and evolution, all happening in Africa's Great Rift Valley.
So you have to picture this place. It wasn't just some quiet landscape. It was a geological hotbed. All that volcanic activity was spewing out radioactive elements, which actually cranked up the rate of genetic mutations. It's like it was fast-tracking evolution. And the one trait that kept winning was intelligence. I mean, it was a massive advantage for hunting, for defending yourself, a total game changer.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Our evolution, it wasn't this neat, straight line like you see in some textbooks. No way. For over a million years, you had multiple human species, like Homo habilis and Homo erectus, just walking around at the same time. They weren't just links in a chain. They were neighbors, maybe even competitors, all coexisting.
And we're not talking about slight differences here. These were huge leaps in what they could do. You had Homo habilis, the handyman, making simple stone tools. But then you get Homo erectus, and boom, their brains are 50% larger, they're hunting with actual weapons, and this is a big one, they'd mastered fire. Just imagine the advantage that gives you.
So, all this evolution leads us to a world that looks very different from ours today. A world where we, Homo sapiens, weren't the only humans on the block. Okay, fast forward to Ice Age Europe. This is where a truly epic showdown takes place. On one side, you have the Neanderthals, incredibly strong, perfectly adapted to the cold. On the other, the newcomers from Africa, the Cro-Magnons. And the Cro-Magnons, well, that's us. The Neanderthals had the brawn for sure, but we had better tools. And maybe the most important thing of all, a more complex language. That is a massive advantage when it comes to planning and working together. And this wasn't some quick battle. We're talking about a conflict that spanned millennia. Think about that. 11,000 years of fighting for the same territory. And in the end, even though the Neanderthals were stronger, they were just overwhelmed by wave after wave of these more organized, adaptable newcomers. But here's the twist in the story. It wasn't just about winning a war and wiping them out. Because it turns out, if you're a modern human of non-African descent, you're carrying around up to 2.6% Neanderthal DNA right now. So we didn't just conquer them, we mingled. Their legacy is literally inside us. And get this, they weren't the only other humans out there, not by a long shot. You had the mysterious Denisovans over in Asia. You had Homo floresiensis, these tiny 1-meter-tall people nicknamed hobbits on an island in Indonesia. For a brief moment in time, Earth was truly a planet of the humans. Incredible. So, how did we go from being one of many human species to the only one left? Well, that's where a series of massive revolutions come in, letting us completely reshape the planet. And this all happened in what is basically a cosmic blink of an eye. Just boom, 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 one revolution after another. The agricultural revolution lets us stop wandering and settle down. The urban revolution brings us together into the first cities. Then the industrial revolution gives us the power of machines. And finally, the information revolution wires up the whole planet instantly. It's an absolutely breakneck pace. And the result of all that, our population just exploded. I mean, look at those numbers. But here's a fascinating bit. The projection is that our numbers will probably peak sometime around 2060 and then actually start a slow decline. That shift is going to define everything about our future. Our impact on this planet has become so massive, so undeniable, that scientists have actually proposed a name for a new geological epoch, the Anthropocene, the age of humans. It means that we, humanity, are now a force of nature, right up there with ice ages and giant asteroid impacts.
Okay, so we've basically taken over the planet. What's next? Well, now our story looks up to the stars and way, way forward into the future.
So the first big hurdle right in front of us is energy. How do we power this massive global civilization we've built? Right now, an incredible 75% of our energy still comes from fossil fuels. They're finite and they're warming up our world.
So the race is absolutely on to switch over to clean, renewable energy. It's the challenge of our time.
But if we pull back and look at the really long-term picture, the timeline just gets mind-boggling. We're talking about a permanent moon base within decades, a whole new supercontinent forming in 200 million years. But here's the kicker. In about 1.2 times billion years, Earth itself probably won't be able to support us anymore. Our long-term survival? It depends on getting off this rock long before our own sun starts to die.
And what does that future look like? I mean, the ultimate destiny for humanity might not even be, well, human. The speculation is that our legacy, our consciousness, could be carried forward by self-replicating AI robots exploring the galaxy, or maybe by our own distant descendants, genetically modified to live on massive starships, seeding new worlds with life. So that's it, the absolutely breathtaking scale of our story. And it all comes down to this one question. Are we going to become the conscious mind of the universe? Or will we just be another fossilized branch on the tree of life? What you should really take away from all this is that our journey from a small valley in Africa to the very edge of time is the ultimate story of potential. And whether we live up to that potential or end up like the Neanderthals, well, that's the chapter that we are all writing right now.